Can anyone tell me when Earth Day is? I bet you know when Christmas is. Or Independence Day? We all like these holidays for different reasons, and they are all put in place for different reasons and opportunities for us to go out and do good. Earth Day this year is actually on April 22nd, and I still remember when I was a young child, I went to Immaculate Conception Schools here in IC in Charles City, and on Earth Day we always used to get like little trees, and so we would get the trees and we would go home and be all excited and we would get to plant them, and we would get to see them grow as we grew as students. Also, another thing that we did on Earth Day is we went on an Earth Day walk, and that basically just meant us little elementary school kids went for a walk, and any trash that we found we picked up. And looking back now, that's really important because in middle school and high school we don't take the time to do that. And sometimes at the end of the year we do community service, but I think that we should celebrate Earth Day more because this planet is very important to all of us and for the generations to come. Just some general facts about pollution according to DoSomething.org. Pollution is one of the biggest global killers, affecting over 1 million people. That's comparable to a global disease like malaria or HIV. And that's kind of crazy to like put in perspective. Like everybody knows like the HIV breakout or malaria, and nobody realizes what this earth is doing to people, but also we're doing to the earth. Another fact is over 1 million seabirds and over 100,000 sea mammals are killed by pollution each year. And that's kind of crazy to think about because when you go on vacation and you see a dolphin, it's really special, and that could never happen again if our earth keeps polluting the oceans. Approximately 40% of lakes in America are too polluted for fishing, aquatic life, or swimming. That's every 4 in 10 lakes in America that we cannot go in, we can't swim, we can't fish because of pollution. The last fact that I have for you is while children take up 10% of the world's pollution, over 40% of global burden of the disease of them. More than 3 million children under the age of 5 die annually from environmental factors. And we don't really hear about that because it doesn't make the big headline newses, but it's really important to realize that this is affecting people's health and that we need to fix it. And all of those facts were according to DoSomething.org. So there are 3 components to pollution that affect us every single day. Air, land, and water. And I'm going to go through and talk about each one and how they affect us. And then at the end, what we can do about it. So air pollution, the definition of air pollution is the release of pollutants into the air that are detrimental to human health and the planet as a whole. And this is according to NRDC. There are 3 categories when talking about the consequences of air pollution. The first one is smog and soot. And soot is a matter, and it's made up of chemicals, soil, smoke, dust, and allergens, and they form gases or solids. They're carried in the air, and as you can kind of see right here, that's kind of what they're talking about. The second one is hazardous air pollutants. Some most common when thinking about that is mercury, lead, dioxins, and benzenes. And lastly, greenhouse gases. And greenhouse gases kind of remind me of when we're back at school and I have a horticulture class and we grow plants in the greenhouse. And I think of greenhouse as kind of that carbon dioxide and plants, but why do we have to care about greenhouse gases? This is a study done by the EPA in 2014, and carbon dioxide was responsible for 81% of the country's total greenhouse emissions, and methane made up 11%. Carbon dioxide comes from the combustion fossil fuels, and methane coming from natural and industrial sources, including large amounts that are released during oil and gas drilling, Walkie says, and that's according to NRDC.org. We're going to take a shift into land and each part of how land affects the pollution. Land-based trash, as you can see here, often ends up in our streams, rivers, and lakes. Ultimately, the world's ocean. About 80% of pollutants found in the marine environment comes from land-based activities. And it's critical to stop from these dumping on land because then it ends up in our oceans. That's according to UNOPS.org. Water. 8 million metric tons. Let me read that again. 8 million metric tons. That's how much plastic we dump into the ocean each year. That's about 17.6 billion pounds, equivalent to nearly 57,000 blue whales every single year. By 2050, ocean plastic will outweigh all of the ocean's fish, and that's according to conservation.org. So now that we talked about how the pollution affects the air and the water and the land, and as you can see through all of those three components, you look at the land that's going into the ocean, and the air, how it affects the land, and all of them are just combined together, and they run into each other, and that's where we get the problems. But I'm here to talk to you about some solutions, easy solutions, in which I participated in myself, on how that we can make the environment a better place. The first one I have for you guys is an Earth Day walk, and as I mentioned in my intro, I still remember when I used to go to IC and we would take an Earth Day walk and we would pick up trash. And as you can see right here, this is me personally, and I am picking up trash and raking out leaves from a garden, and this garden is located in Charles City across from Ace Hardware, and next to Ace is a McDonald's. And this garden is out of St. John's Church, and I never really realized all the trash that was underlying all the leaves. And so when I went there to rake out the leaves and just get the plants so that they could grow, I found myself with lots of McDonald's trash on my hands. And it's kind of crazy to think about people who won't throw away things and they'll just throw them out the window, because then another human being will have to pick them up. And that isn't fair to the person that ends up picking them up, but also the people who can take 2 seconds to throw that in the trash and put it in a place safely. The second solution that I have for you is an ocean and beach cleanup. And right here on the screen, I just have some statistics of how awesome this organization is. And it's an organization that goes to beaches and in the ocean, and they mostly focus on picking up plastic. And in the last couple of years, studies have been showing about how bad plastic is for our sea life. If you look at mammals in the water, they're getting stuck in those little Gatorade circle things, and they can't get out of it. And the latest thing has been sea turtles getting straws stuck up their noses. So it's really important for organizations like this to get out and be known, because it's a really easy fix for us to go and help pick up trash. Probably the most shocking statistic that I have on the screen I'll just share for you is 38,889 pounds of trash and recycling removed from the ocean. And this is just in 2020. So that's kind of crazy because it's only April and they've already picked up that much trash. Lastly, I just want to leave you with one more point. You can make a difference. Elementary school ages, you can make a difference. Middle school, you're starting to drive. You're starting to go out to eat with your friends. You can make a difference. High school age people, you're going to college. You might get the chance to go on a spring break. How are you going to treat those beaches? What are you going to do if you see trash on the beach? Are you going to pick it up, or are you going to say it's someone else's problem? All of us, all ages, parents, everyone, we can make a difference one step at a time. Thank you.